Well, it's that time of year, folks. While everyone is having fun in the holiday season, I am counting down my top 10 favorite movies of the year. There were honestly not a whole lot of good movies this year. It was hard even getting 10 movies I rated higher than a 7. That said, all the films here deserve to be on this list. Alright, let's get to it. All Quiet on the Western Front is a film I was worried I wasn't gonna like. I do not like war movies. I have only liked this and Dunkirk, which is only 2. It is a genre that is so repetitive, and while this film takes from the normal tropes of the stereotypical war bad movie, this one sticks out to me. It is not annoyingly patriotic, probably because it's not a US movie, and it is more focused on the manipulations of war, from government to the soldiers, which I found very interesting. There is also some extremely beautiful cinematography that reminds me of the cinematography imagery from Come and See, which just surpassed Parasite for the highest rated film ever on Letterboxd. The film has a lot of action scenes that are shot well and have almost a dead silent monotone feeling to them, which I'm sure was the film's intentions. Not a lot to say about this one. Just a great war movie that should get more attention. Vengeance is such a small movie that I really have a lot to say about. First off, this movie has some great humor, and most of it comes from someone coming from New York going to Texas for the first time. For me, hearing that was a slight turnoff, but apparently you don't need to be from New York or Texas to understand and enjoy the humor. Unfortunately, the film can't be perfect all the time. Ashton Kutcher has all these monologues that start out wise and compelling, but then it turns into a slippery slope of him saying things that don't make any sense. And this happens a lot, and you can't tell if the movie wants you to think he's some powerful and wise figure, or just another character that's so full of himself he's bound for comedic relief. The mystery, it's super slow and basically nothing happens for 45 minutes, and then there are these weird out-of-place twists that take you out of the movie. Those are my main complaints with the movie, but there are a few more. For one thing, the pacing never seems consistent with the runtime that, by the way, could have been cut down to just an hour and a half. Issa Rae's character is just kind of dropped at the end. The score is almost unnoticeable, which usually wouldn't be a complaint, but I had very high hopes when it said original score by Phineas O'Connell. The overall mystery is too easily solved with like one line of dialogue, and lastly, John Mayer is in it. Those are my complaints, so let's get to the good. The script is tight as hell. Every conversation develops a character extremely well, but in a way that feels so subtle, and the dialogue, oh my god. The dialogue is obviously the focus of the movie. I like how one of the last shots, that I will not spoil, is very artsy in a way that I was not expecting for its subject matter. I also love how sweet it was. Comedy movies these days are mostly about shock value, and while that can be fun, it gets old pretty fast. In this movie, the humor is a lot more kind and unassuming. How we don't know anything about Abeline either puts us in the shoes of our main character as we slowly discover more and more about her. The way it builds on itself in a very careful way up until the very thought-provoking finale is a great thing to see unfold. It really all comes together at the end, and the more I think about it, the more I like it. I already made a 7-minute video on Fabelman, so I'll just sum up what I said. This movie is pretty good. I can tell Steven Spielberg had a lot to say, but I don't think he knows how to say it. There are some great scenes and messages of the effect of filmmaking and uncontrollable love towards something, but it was very messy. The acting was great for the most part. There is a certain cameo at the end that is fun, and the last shot is the culmination of everything good about Spielberg, but the movie seems confused. The plot switches focus fast and in a strange way, and any message that they got right was rushed along. Overall, this one is growing on me and is by no means a bad movie. I wouldn't even call it mediocre. I just had more hope for it. Elvis is such a ridiculous film. It should not work in any way, but it really does. I've only seen 2 other Baz Luhrmann films, that being The Great Gatsby and Romeo and Juliet. Great Gatsby is one of the best films of the 2010s, and Romeo and Juliet is one of the worst movies out of the 90s. So, you can see that I really didn't know what to expect from this one. I saw it as soon as I could, and it was really good. The editing kept me interested in the story of Elvis, which is a story I would not be interested in if not for the editing. There are not only some mind-blowingly imaginative shots, but there is also a shiny, sleek feeling of it all, like Elvis. The acting from Austin Butler deserves to win Best Actor this year at the Oscars. It is just that good. This film is electric. Sure, it drags in some scenes, and especially the end, but it really all boils down to one flaw: Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is laughably bad in this movie. He does a terrible accent the entire film that never sounds better, and he really just can't play a sleazy, rotten character because he's so used to playing the nice guy. Overall, I enjoyed it, but I wish Tom Hanks was not in the film. I have talked about Batman way too many times on this channel. So in March I made a video on this movie that is now private because I recorded it on a goddamn Google slideshow, and then I made a Dark Knight comparison video more recently that you should definitely check out. But the point is, I don't want to talk about this movie. I like the fact that it was Detective Batman because that has always been more interesting to me than just Batman kicking the shit out of people. The villain is ominous and well acted, the direction is sleek, and this is just the perfect superhero movie, other than the ending that got resolved way too fast. I liked Catwoman, which is usually a character I really don't like in the Batman saga, so they get extra points for that. Very good movie, don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's move on. Well, everyone, like an absolute buffoon, I waited for Knives Out 2 to be released on Netflix, so now I am hastily writing this segment as it must be included in the top 10. Knives Out 2 is a strange case of a film. There are some parts in the film, mainly in the middle, where it seems to be better than the first, but there are so many corny-ass jokes in here to take the film 100% seriously. The modern references are neither fun nor charming. The ending is also really lame, with way too much happening way too fast that it seems to be very rushed. But like I said, the middle is charming, entertaining, fun, and even funny when they don't use meta humor. So overall a mixed bag, but I definitely enjoyed this movie. Top Gun: Maverick is the best blockbuster film I've ever experienced in a theater. Fun and high stakes, but not patriotic action scenes, surprisingly emotional acting, character growth, and no bullshit. This movie has what so many blockbusters like Avatar 2, Wakanda Forever, and even Everything Everywhere All at Once did not have and desperately needed. And that was the heart. This movie had so much heart, a passion to create a good time, not to create a brand or to estimate if they should make like 10 sequels, just to show people a great time. They also call the unnecessary and egotistical scenes that don't progress the characters and the plot in any way and are just there to show off a person's filmmaking technique. I really don't have much to say about this one. It's just super refreshing to have a movie like this. Jordan Peele is such an amazing filmmaker. Because he has only made 3 films, I don't think I can call him one of my favorites, but for right now, he's up there. No one pushes the boundaries of the modern blockbuster like he does. While Top Gun felt nicely traditional, Nope felt more like a great step in the right direction. And most of that is due to the fact that this movie makes you think. And, you know, I can't really say that for almost every other mainstream movie this year. It has layers, and it is so heavily focused on its metaphors that I can understand why some would not like it, but I sure as hell do. It kept me on the edge of my seat, had some of the greatest performances of the year, and is one of the most memorable things I've ever watched. Banshees of Inisherin is one of the best movies I've seen in a long time, and the fact that it is only number 2 on the list is really telling you something about how high quality the higher films on this list are. I already made a video on this film that got a lot more views than I would have expected, so let me restate just a few things. This film is the funniest thing I've seen all year. It may even be more funny than In Bruges because the jokes in this film were so unique and strange. The acting from Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson is some of the best from both of their careers, and the cinematography, oof, I'll just leave it at that. The point is, why talk about Banshees when you can just watch Banshees again? Aftersun is perfect. Sure, there are a few problems I have with it, like the slow start, or a few small moments that felt like they were building to something but weren't, but all those moments were intentional and work with the film. I am still contemplating making a full video on this movie because there is really just so much to say about it, but for now I'll say this. The movie creates a very real feeling. A feeling where your heart almost sinks in your stomach. Not sadness, even though the film has its fair share of that. No. What I'm talking about is the feeling that something bad is going to happen. And not only is it out of your control, but you don't even understand it. But even with the depressed and raw undertone of the film, it still has sweet and tender moments that build these two characters in a way that makes you think that this movie is personal and autobiographical. Well, it's not. The story is fiction, but yet it is so real and raw that you'd think someone could only come up with it after it happening to them. But other than that one aspect, you'd think the film would fall off, but it doesn't. It has a strange camera filter that makes it look like you are looking at memories, and the shots themselves are beautiful and a part of the emotional core of the film. Paul Mescal gives a performance that is better than perfect. You feel the same way Sophie does around his character, which is obviously the intent. Overall, this movie is the only 10 out of 10 this year, and you all need to watch it. And that's my list, everyone. Merry late Christmas, thanks for watching, and have a great day.